Are you ready for another installment of Amanda Breaks Down a TikTok Trend?
That's it. That's my intro.
Hi, I'm Amanda, you're watching Swell Entertainment, and today we are talking about the underconsumption core or underconsumption trend on TikTok. Why? Because like always, people are both underestimating it, overestimating it, and just estimating it. And I want to talk about it. But really quick, let me tell you about the sponsor for today's video, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one website platform to help you stand out and succeed online. Whether you are just starting out or looking for a change, Squarespace is the perfect platform for you. Squarespace has tons of incredible templates and are completely customizable to fit everything that you might need, set up or revamp your online store, and they have flexible payment options for your customers to be able to get your products the easiest way possible. Get started on your new website today. Go to squarespace.com and get started on a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Swell Entertainment to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Again, that's squarespace.com/Swell Entertainment, and thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. To understand why underconsumption core became such a big deal on TikTok specifically, you need to kind of have an understanding on how big consumerism consumption has gotten on TikTok. I think we talk about this quite a bit, or it's referenced quite a bit, not necessarily on this channel, but just in general with life, with the nature of influencers. Influencers in their existence are encouraging consumerism because they, just by existing as themselves in their content, are selling something, whether it's a dream, whether it's a lifestyle, whether it's what they had to eat, whether it's the lip gloss they are putting on, okay? So by just operating as a content creator, they are selling you a lipstick, they are selling you a perfume, a place to go get coffee, whatever, okay? Now, whether or not you engage with that and you choose to go and emulate that is up to you, obviously, but there are people that do that. And I'm not gonna sit here and be like, don't do that, because to each their own, okay? And for anyone in the comment section right now that's like, well, that's stupid, I never do that, why would anyone do that? People are deeply unhappy with life, okay? Like I don't know. I don't know how to explain to you that there are people that want to live a life that is not their own, and they look to people that are living lives that are, magical, beautiful, impressive, expensive, whatever, as a means of escapism or as a means of something to look up to strive for, okay? It does serve a purpose. Is it a purpose that is necessarily a net positive? Up for debate. And then obviously I've talked about Stanley Cups, I've talked about the cult of Stanley Cups and various other, Squishmallows and things like that. The nature of just having things and buying things as a personality trait is very popular on TikTok, even though it's not necessarily a set thing. It's not always a Stanley Cup. Sometimes it's just simply making a big deal out of the fact that you buy these things in excess constantly, buying 4 colors of the same shirt and things like that, okay? So when you look at that extreme, okay, or the extreme of hauls, the extreme of influencers going on lavish trips and showing that and spending lavish amounts of money when there is a financial crisis happening in this country, I think when you look at that, you can very clearly the clear path as to why that has led to the romanticization, I butchered that, of underconsumption and underconsumption core. Silencing this audio because I don't want to get a copyright claim. Everyone uses music on their TikTok. It's been a while since I've had to do this though. Okay, just making mouth sounds now. This is weird. Okay, bye. Now, obviously showing you those examples. You are probably like, Amanda though, that's just being a person. That's just existing. That's just being low income. That's just using the things that you buy. Yes, I acknowledge that. However, it is also a more extreme version of that, I would say, in that it is, again, the romanticization of using what you have, reusing what you own, repairing what you own in some instances, okay, and using things till they are basically essentially no longer usable. It's very normal, especially under a financial crisis, to use every last drop of something, to use the, towels repeatedly before you wash them, to find things to do with your paper towel holders so you're not just throwing them away, to find things to do with using every last drop of your makeup or skincare before you even consider throwing it out. That is now becoming increasingly more common, but I don't think that, again, the romanticizing of this is necessarily a bad thing. Yes, that is just existing. Okay. What is the harm then of making it this romantic commitment to your things and using your things and cherishing your things more fully why is that necessarily a bad thing? Sorry, I shouldn't say that like them criticizing like, oh, it's just existing, that's saying that underconsumption core is a bad thing. It's usually like, this is stupid, this is ridiculous, why are we making, this isn't a core, this is just being existing, okay? I get that sentiment, but again, I don't think that there's anything wrong or, harmful at all or anything like that with like, again, romanticizing something, showing off the, the care that you have for your items and taking care of your items. I saw a good video today that I think is something to note as well, where it was someone showing a video, a compilation of various things where it is forcing overconsumption onto people, okay? So it's like, she is like, I am trying to underconsume, but existing in life makes it very hard. Before I was a YouTuber, I was a barista. And during COVID, we had to get rid of our reusable cups and our policy where we would do a discount if you brought in your own cup, okay? Like your own cup to make your latte in or whatever, or ice drink. Because at the start of lockdown, there was a lot of regulations where we couldn't handle certain things. We couldn't give you a coffee cup without a lid on it and things like that. There was a lot more food regulations on top of it. And so things like that, there's a lot of companies that never brought those back. A lot have. They've rolled back their COVID restrictions entirely or their COVID like regulated policies entirely. But a lot of them realize that, hey, the bottom line actually, we actually save a lot of time on man hours if we're not washing coffee cups. Or, if that extra 10 cents does add up if we don't give that discount. So why would someone bring in their cup reusable? So it's like she was sharing the disposable coffee cups and one-use coffee cups that everyone gets whenever you go out basically now to a coffee shop, even if you're working there. If you are working there, you still get the to-go cup. Clothing items that have just gone down in quality. There's a lot of really great Twitter accounts that I follow that document like how just clothes are just made worse now. And it's actually better to, shop on the real or secondhand and go more vintage and higher end, essentially vintage, because you're just going to find better quality items. Because even now luxury items are being made with lesser quality materials or with lesser care. And so they are basically forcing obsolescence onto a garment when you buy it. And that makes underconsumption very difficult because the thing that you bought that you were like, this is my staple piece, I'm gonna wear it all the time. You wear it twice and it's disintegrating, okay? And this is why I am so anti-Shein, okay? And Temu and the like. This wasn't included in their video, but like makeup products, it seems like the quantity has gotten smaller in a lot of instances. And in some instances, it's because these ingredients do expire. But the makeups of them has actually gotten so fragile that by the time you start getting down to the nubbin or whatever, the end of the product, it actually breaks apart or crumbles before you can finish using it, essentially. There's a lot of things like that where it's like, it's obviously more financially viable for companies for you to have to replace things constantly. It's more financially viable for you to, buy that fast fashion piece from them, because they know it's going to, you can try and reuse it as much as you want. Eventually it is going to disintegrate. Now, there are people that do buy from Shein once in a while, and they take very good care of their items, immensely good care of their items to the point where they do last longer. But even then, it's like, I look at things like Forever 21. I think this is the easiest example that I can use for Americans, because I feel like this is a pretty common example if you're a young adult like me. I feel like a lot of us have memories of Forever 21, things that we bought in middle school or high school, lasting way longer than anything that we bought in the last 5 years from them. I had a dress for literal 10 years that I wore in middle school. I got it in middle school and it lasted me throughout college. Meanwhile, there's tops that I've bought, one-offs or whatever from Forever 21 in the last couple of years that I rarely shop from them now because I'm just not interested in it whatsoever, frankly. It's just too much. And then you just see it like you wash it one time, hand wash it otherwise, and it just shrivels, it disintegrates. It's clean girl aesthetic, okay, which yes, does skew very white. We need to acknowledge that. I can't not. But the nature of the clean girl aesthetic, I think also very much glamorizes new things, okay? Like it's so clean because it's pristine because it's brand new. The makeup palette looks flawless because it's literally right out of the packaging. So to have something that is not necessarily the antithesis of clean girl aesthetic, but definitely an opposition of the clean girl aesthetic, because not necessarily is underconsumption core messy or dirty in comparison to clean girl, but it is something where it's like things stop looking super pretty and pristine once you start using them excessively. And I'm not even talking about like something disintegrating, like a piece of like a t-shirt that you've gotten from a store, like, oh, I've used it so much it's now ratty and disgusting, though there is instances of that, not necessarily disgusting, but like ratty, repairing holes and things like that. Mending things is a big part of underconsumption underconsumption core, in my opinion, or it should be at the very least. But like, obviously, like a makeup palette that you've been using forever, you know, that you use all of the shades and everything, it's going to start looking messy. The pigments are going to start bleeding into each other. They're going to start bleeding into the cardboard or the material around it, because that's just the nature of how makeup is and how pigment transfers. So yes, it's not necessarily super, you know, pristine, but it's being used. It's real. It's realistic, and using it in its entirety. For example, here as well, it's like underconsumption core. My spices are in their original containers, because a lot of, you know, like, do a restock with me, and it's literally taking a perfectly fine plastic container of spices and putting it into another container for spices, you know, just to put a pretty label on it so it all matches together. Under consumption core, it's just normal consumption. My 2014-year-old car that is almost paid off. The rings that I wear every single day, that are the only rings I own. Travel makeup bags that you've had for forever, you know, since high school. Not buying more than 2 of us can eat in a week. It's using the same shoes that you wear every day that are sneakers, the shoes that will hold up well. One water tumbler, not one that matches all of your different hair scrunchies. Literally cutting your tubes open. I am a big proponent of cutting tubes open to get product out, by the way, when it comes to skincare and things like that, because products are expensive. Using quality over quantity when it comes to underconsumption. You may want to go buy something that is nice, but you want to buy something that's going to last. So like, don't get the cheapo tumbler, go get one that is maybe a little more expensive, but you know you can use for literal years. Yeah, there are some people that call it underconsumption core, just normal consumption core. I've been seeing that as well. Here's one unpopular opinion, but I feel like this underconsumption trend has been a real eye-opener. I feel gross. I'm going on a no-buy, showing her literal essential hoarding of Bath and Body Works products. And then someone in the comment section, underconsumption trend, it's not a trend, it's normal. Good job in acknowledging it though. And it's like, again, but there are some, but when you've been in this tunnel of over a lot of, especially content geared towards women, is very glamorizing of stuff, okay? And as someone, I'm a maximalist. I love things. I love stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong or like with glamorizing or making it seem appealing to just use what you have. Yes, no one needs 8,000 or 800 or even 80 hand sanitizers from Bath and Body Works. No one does, not really. If that's what you want to collect, that is for you, okay? But like, to be doing the hauls and its accessibility, like some of those things are probably expired by now. It's probably just like straight alcohol at this point, or just water. I don't know. How does alcohol, I don't know how hand sanitizer breaks down, especially those ones that have a lot of like scent perfumes in them and things like that. But you know, that's my point. It's like, it's the overconsumption because we've so much glamorized haul culture, having things on every single surface, you know, that's very popular. I also think that some people see, you know, the buying excessive things and all that as wealth hoarding. I'll never forget when I was on Twitter once, and there was someone who had shared, like, in their basement, instead of a man cave or whatever their man cave was, they made like their own like VHS DVD store in there. Like that was what they wanted to turn their basement into. And it was like a fun thing that I thought, I was like, oh, this is someone showing off what they love. I also collect DVDs, you know, and like this is just the way that they've chosen to express that. And there were people calling that wealth hoarding, which I do think there's just, you're never gonna be able to appeal to everyone on the internet, especially Twitter. Twitter is a hellscape, okay? I'm not calling it X, I don't care. You can comment, oh, you mean X, all you want in the comment section. I do not care. And no one likes you at parties, okay? I'm not worried about the person with a DVD collection in their basement. I'm worried about people going to Mars for funsies, okay? That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about people who think it's a cool idea to drive a Cybertruck and, you know, be a hazard on the road. I'm worried about the Kardashians just building bunkers, you know, and things like that. This is, yes, excessive. Do I necessarily consider this wealth hoarding? No. Do I consider this technically irresponsible? In my opinion, yes, but I know that I would not do this because I would never get through that amount of product before it expires. There's another comment in the same video. You've taken the first step by acknowledging it. It gets better, because this person was talking about, like, again, I'm going to go on a no buy, because, which I do think are very helpful. I am a big proponent of no buys as well. No buys are something that I personally, for myself, stole from minimalism and minimalists. And I think it's something that is very helpful for a lot of people. It's a good reset for yourself, especially I find it very helpful for myself. I usually do it after the holidays, in Christmas time and stuff, because I'm used to, I get a little more frivolous with spending money because I've just bought a gift for friends and families and such. And so once you start spending money, it's a little easier to keep spending money. So doing a no buy for a week or longer, you know, or even just a couple of days, whatever you can comfortably do with set parameters, like groceries are allowed. Hermes, usually anything for Hermes, I don't include it in a no buy, but it just, I think it's a really good reset and a healthy reset to do. And it's something that if you're thinking about underconsumption, it sounds so stupid to say it like this, but if you're thinking about like, okay, I really want to take a deeper look at my buying habits and like how I am consuming and like, okay, if I freeze half my bread, will it not go bad before I eat it and things like that? You know, like looking at your life and how you consume and how, you know, capitalism has forced consumerism onto you. I do think a no buy is a very helpful way to like reset and kind of look at, it's not just good for your finances, but it's just good for like your existence as a human being, in my opinion, because you really, once you turn off that dopamine switch of like, oh, sweet treat, buying this, yay, you know, I think that is very helpful for an individual. This is Suzanne, or it's Suzanne Lambert. This is her video, and I do agree with her point as well. Like I said at the intro, like taking it too far, not taking it too far, you know, all of that. And I do think that it becomes a point with something like this, with any trend, it becomes gamified. And that is now a gamified sense of under consuming so that you can feel superior to other people.
At first I liked the underconsumption videos on TikTok, but now it's just kind of giving the girl who comes on a trip and makes the fact that she only packed a backpack for the entire 2-week vacation her entire personality. Funniest part of all of these videos is the comment sections, and I love watching this content, but this woman posted, you know, her underconsumption core life, and all of these people in the comments are like, you have a fridge full of food, that's not underconsumption, about her food. And the woman was like, I have 3 kids, I have to have my pantry stocked. And the people were like, well, if you have 3 kids, then by default, you're not under consuming.
I am not participating in the underconsumption core trend. I am just existing as a human being, okay? I don't buy things until they're gone, but then also my job as a YouTuber and product reviewer as well is literally professional consumption. I literally buy things for the purpose of a review. Do I try and find places for them to go afterwards if I don't like them, or do they end up in my internet collection? Yes, but I do everything in my power to not just throw them out. At the same time, I do think there is something to be said, like the girl who said, this has made me feel gross. I really need to reevaluate myself. I'm going on a no buy. That is fantastic, great, okay? Like someone who whole existence on the internet was just consuming products, realizing and just buying products and hoarding products and things like that, and realizing, wait, I actually feel really weird about this when I see it in this new context. Recontextualizing things in your life and all of that, learning new information and changing your behavior based on that information is a good thing. But then you also have people who take the, you know, moral superiority ground, like, oh, well, I always do this. Or I think it was that one video that I showed actually, where it's like, oh, you have a fridge full of food that's not under consumption. Buying groceries, yes, is consuming, but it's consuming to exist. Underconsumption is using the groceries in your fridge instead of going on DoorDash or going to the store. But then again, you also have people who would love to participate in underconsumption, but they are disabled, and so they can't go and cook groceries the way that, you know, someone who is completely able can, you know? So yes, DoorDash is the means of which they can eat, or going to a restaurant because they can't chop food or anything like that, you know? Like they are under consuming in their own ways in a lot of instances. And I think that's the thing. It's like, it's not a one size fits all for underconsumption. There are ways that you can apply underconsumption to your own life. And that is the nature of underconsumption core. How does this apply you? That's what people are, it's like, oh, the core is just an idea. It's a theme. 80 bajillion Stanley Cups is not part of underconsumption core. One person shared like, oh, this is the one that we use for travel and hiking and such, and then this is the one that we use for work. Like that, I have 2 different cups, which is frankly smart to do. Have 1 or 2, especially if you travel. I have multiple water bottles, okay, because I travel a lot. I have a Brita one that like has a water filter thingy in it. That's good for travel, okay. I've got one that's very durable that if I whack a bear with it while I'm hiking, it's good for that, okay. And I have one that I keep on my desk that I left it downstairs. That's fairly normal because you also got to wash things, okay? Now, there are people that only have one and they use one for everything because they don't travel. That's their underconsumption, is that they don't travel because they can't afford to travel. It applies to you. It's an individualized thing. But also, yes, having kids is expensive. Does that mean that it's not underconsumption core because they feed their kids? Because they have kids? Like we've lost the plot, you know? So then there was a response to Suzanne's vid. This is from Bailey Marie Foray.
Really clear about what we're actually talking about when we mean overconsumption. Overconsumption is buying a new iPhone every single year just because there's one new edition, like taking a bunch of Stanley water bottles that you're hoarding from Target and keeping them in a massive area in your closet. Overconsumption is buying a bunch of beach wear that you're gonna wear on one vacation from Shein that basically cost you like $30 that you're literally never going to wear again. Overconsumption is consumption for consumption's sake. And the kind of worst part about the underconsumption core trend is that it's swinging its head back around and kind of shaming other people. And at the same time, there are some underconsumption practices that personally for me would not fly. Like I have to buy new makeup when my makeup expires. Like I don't want that on my face. One of the main parts of underconsumption was basically people also showing that within their means, these are the things that are available and that they're expressing that they feel a need to overconsume over their budget because of different societal pressures. And a lot of those videos are basically showing like, listen, this is how normal people live. And they're not glamorizing owning so many things.
She brought up a really good point. Overconsumption is consumption for the sake of consumption, especially on TikTok when it's the sake of performative consumption. Look at how cool I am. I'm able to buy all these things, okay? Or I'm able to have these things. Or aren't I cool because I have 80 Stanley cups, okay? And then underconsumption core as a whole, again, I think it's not a one size fits all thing. I think it is a case by case basis. She brought up once makeup expires, I'm not going to keep using it. I have to be the same way with anything that goes on my face. As far as eyeshadow goes, I get a little more leeway with that. But I broke out years ago. I've done Accutane, but my skin is still very sensitive and dry. Anything that expires that goes on like the bulk of my face, I have to replace it. But that being said, because I am a one product person, once I find something that works, I will go through whole tubes of sunscreen before it's expired, okay? Or, the moisturizer I use and things like that. Same goes with, food and things like that. Like Hermes, obviously you can't see him. He's down here. Hermes is my producer. And obviously he gets cranky if he doesn't get the specific fancy food things that he likes, okay? So yes, would it be more financially under consumption for me to go and get dog food from Dollar Tree or something? Sure. He doesn't eat that. He's a bougie little bitch. And I can't explain under consumption core to him. He's a dog. And so obviously I go and I buy him the more expensive food that I know he will eat regardless because I've tried 80 different food brands with him, it feels like, okay? Or a doggy bag and things like that. Like, obviously I'm not gonna just leave his poop out on the ground when we're out for our walks, but will I reuse a plastic bag that came from an item that I ordered online to pick up his poop and throw it in the trash? Yes, I will. I do think it's a case by case basis. And the problem with the underconsumption core trend, it's gonna fizzle out. My favorite thing is the people that are like, influencers are panicking because of the underconsumption trend. No, they're not. Because at the end of the day, to some degree, influencers at their core are entertainers. Whether you find them entertaining or not is obviously, neither here nor there. Someone finds someone entertaining or something about them entertaining. Is it the lifestyle? Is it the content they share? Most of these people can pivot or they will fizzle out and fall off the moment they stop making money. That's fine. But if you think that a trend on TikTok of underconsumption core, which is also just recession core, frankly, if you think that that alone is going to make it so that these people just like panic and start pulling their hair out at the roots, it just isn't the case. Where we see this happening now is views wise. TikTok is messing with views and we see a lot of people being like, am I shadow banned? What's going on? Why are you not watching my videos, things like that. That's what does make them panic, especially on TikTok. It does seem like TikTok might get banned, so there's always that. But at the end of the day, influencers aren't panicking because you're not buying products from them because there's other things that they get money from. Views are the one thing. If you want to really make an influencer sweat, stop engaging with their content in any way, shape, or form. That's it. Block them and move along. Did I ever talk about the block list? I feel like I mentioned it. The block list was something that was going on with people that were not talking about the genocide happening in Palestine right now, and there was a lot of people that were being called out to be put on the block list. It did get bastardized a bit, like everything does on TikTok, because they were just blocking people who had actively been donating to Palestinians and supporting Palestinian causes and donating to various orgs and things like that since October, or have been vocal about it since before, the genocide started. That they just started blocking because they're an elite. It's like, okay, then block the elite. I don't know why. do whatever you want. Again, I've talked about this. I am pro blocking people because you find them annoying. But if you really want to make an influencer sweat, yes, blocking them will do that. You were probably never someone who was they were targeting anyway, or someone that they thought was watching their content in the first place if you were, glamorizing underconsumption and things like that. I always encourage you guys to look at things and look at products differently, and events and movies and things like that differently, and ask your own questions and make, better decisions when you are purchasing something. That's why I'm a professional consumer, so that you can make better consumerism decisions, because that is the nature of life under capitalism, and also if you want to find joy in an event, I would recommend that you find joy in an event that has, good things that'll make you get your money's worth, etc. Okay, that's why I make the content that I do. But the reason I'm making this video is literally, one, I want to talk about this trend, talked about how it's been, bastardized and used to belittle people who are trying their very best, whether it's to participate in this trend or to just kind of reevaluate their buying habits, but also to encourage any of you watching this, like, maybe think about, not buying from Shein. I always say, if I can get one of you to stop buying from Shein, I will succeed. Don't buy from Temu, ever. All right. If I can encourage any of you to think about oh, well, I was going to go and buy a new makeup product because I saw it on TikTok, but instead I'm going to finish off the one that I have first. If I can encourage that at all, fantastic. Okay. And again, there's going to be a bunch of you that are like, well, I'm broke because of X, because I don't have a job because of X. I'm sorry. Obviously, that's bad for you. I am sorry. But then I am not talking to you. You don't need to hear this, from me. But there might be someone who is just deep in the fan brain rot of buying literally every single thing that one influencer owns and buys, because they are trying to find a way to like themselves. And they think that by doing that, it'll be becoming someone else. And maybe a little bit of underconsumption core will do a good self-reflection, because you can't, force just dopamine from just hitting add to cart. You can find it in other ways. That being said as well, get the margarita while the ship is going down. So if you are just like capitalism, everything's awful, the recession, housing, etc. If you want to buy a sweet little treat and that's what's getting you through the day, I don't think there's anything wrong with that too. Okay. So again, just do with this video what you will. Just do with this video what you will, and what the trend is and all of that. And I just wanted to talk about this. I do think that within a month of me putting this out, no one will be talking about underconsumption core anymore. Because again, that the trendifying of something does not mean that it starts or stops existing prior to it popping up in the cultural zeitgeist and the trend and the conversation. All right. That's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have you heard of underconsumption core? Have you participated in underconsumption core? What is something that you reuse or have mended or used to the very last drop before you replace it, or something that you used to the very last drop and realized, I don't really need to replace this? Let me know, comment down below. Reminder, I stream on Twitch. Reminder that Swell Entertainment is now available on Spotify. Reminder to use code SWELL for 10% off on gamer subs. Shout out to my patron. Thank you so much for supporting my Patreon. You also support me on Patreon. Links down below. Like my social media. It'll be all up here. And it's going to be a have a lovely day. Goodbye. I don't know what that was. All I will say is that there's no thing that you can buy that will make you like yourself more. Just gonna leave you with that. Thank you, Adira, Amy, Andrew, Ayana, Cameron, Donnie, Elliot, Freya, Jeffrey, Jenny, Literal, May West, Michael, Nathan, Oz, Palace, Qwerty, Robert, Tasha, Tenzin, Thomas, Timothy, Winters, Wink.